Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We got a lot of big conversations to get to. Let's first talk about the aftermath of the raid on the Trump's residence in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. We talked a little bit about how Republicans are coming to the defense of the former president, but now he is moving forward and setting up his plans on dealing with the next phase of his legal battles. Also, let's talk about the fact that he invoked the Fifth Amendment in the situation in an investigation that's happening in New York State by the Attorney General Letitia James. So I want to get your reactions to this. Let's talk about this and what you're seeing and what you're expecting to see as these things continue to unfold. Also, let's talk about the airstrikes in Israel and the killing of 4 Muslims in New Mexico. What does that mean as folks all across the world are looking at the plight of the Palestinians and the Islamic community? We check in with Laura Albas from the Institute for Palestine Studies to give us some insight into that. Later, let's talk about CDC updates on COVID vaccines. The CDC is saying that children under a certain age need to be boosted and vaccinated as we all get prepared for the school season. And we're going to get some updates about where we stand on public health and policy in this country. And then I got to have a special conversation with Dr. Dunn of the Dunn Foundation, who's having their 11th annual back to school book bag and gift giveaway. We'll have a little conversation about the beauty and the art of community service. All of that is coming at you right now on The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to The Culture. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Black Star Network. Make sure y'all show your support for the Black Star Network at blackstarnetwork.com, as we are unapologetically unfiltered Black media like you've never heard before. So check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free, and most importantly, continue to support the great work that we do to change the conversation, to make sure that we say our stories and plead our case. Folks, the first conversation, speaking of which, that we're going to have this afternoon is around former President Donald Trump. Now, yesterday we talked about how FBI agents and the Department of Justice officials decided to move forward in retrieving some documents from the former president's residence in Florida in Mar-a-Lago. The president said that he felt like this was a Watergate moment. Republicans have rallied around the former president, even at their own I don't know, even at the craziness of trying to defend a man who continues to throw them under the bus. And the Democrats are saying that the Department of Justice is doing the right thing. So we've heard from all of these parties, but I wanted to hear from you. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing happening with the president and his legal battles? Now, this situation with retrieving those classified documents that were removed from the White House at the end of President Trump's time in Washington, this has been a situation that has been a long-standing situation, right? And as we reported yesterday, this was something that was after months of the National Archives requesting for those classified documents to be returned, and President Trump delayed, and essentially have not returned them, bringing the FBI and the Department of Justice into the conversation to retrieve those documents. 15 boxes. And as you can see the headlines here from the New York Post, never before in American history, the FBI searches a former president's home. Now, of course, former President Donald Trump thinks this is a whole situation where the Democrats, particularly President Joe Biden, is behind it. And he pledged and vowed that something will be done against the Department of Justice, against the FBI, against the Democrats. There's also been talks among the Republicans saying that they are going to move forward on getting some information from President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and trying to see if they can retrieve some documents because of his business dealings. Now, speaking of business dealings, one of the big things that President Trump is now embroiled in is an investigation into the business practices of his Trump organization in New York State, where Attorney General Letitia James, a Black woman, is leading the charge against the former president. In that deposition that was given earlier today, the president then said that he would invoke the Fifth Amendment. And basically declined to answer any questions about the business practice or the financial dealings of his own company. So where does that put us? Where does that put you as the electorate, put us as a constituent? What do you see happening with this whole situation with President Trump? Do you think this is going to cause a situation where many people across the country are going to see Trump for who they really are? Or will this cause a situation where it will embolden the Republicans? It will embolden the Republicans to galvanize around the president and a man who has taken their party into a much more destructive path that it might actually give them the momentum that they need for his presidential run for 2024. I want you to join us and post your comments in our YouTube chat and on our Facebook page, and let's have a conversation about what we're seeing. Here's a couple of things that I saw, folks. Now, first with the raid situation, here's the thing that stood out for me. And yesterday we talked about how Republican leaders, Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader, and other Republican officials have said that they're going to use their power to wield some type of a blowback against the Department of Justice. Okay, but here's a tweet. And if you haven't seen this tweet, folks, but Mike Pence, I don't get it. And y'all tell me what you think on this very quickly. But Mike Pence put out this tweet yesterday over the situation that happened with the FBI going into Mar-a-Lago. Y'all remember, this is the former vice president of the United States. This is Trump's guy. But him and Trump haven't been on the right terms. Mike Pence tried to distance himself from Trump because of the January 6th situation. But then yesterday, he puts a tweet out, and I'm going to just have to share this tweet with y'all, just kind of read it. He said, quote, "I share the deep concern of millions of Americans over the unprecedented search of the personal residence of President Trump." Look at this, folks. He said, "No former president of the United States has ever been subject to a raid of their personal residence in American history." This is Mike Pence, y'all. Mr. Vice President. It was the supporters of this man who said that they wanted to literally hang you on January the 6th. This is the same guy who made the decision, and this came out during the January 6th hearings, that while watching all of this stuff unfold on January the 6th, basically, when he heard the chant, said, I don't disagree. He needs to be punished. And yet, you still share deep concern. The man wanted you dead, sir. Like he legitimately had no problems with wanting you dead. And you still share deep concern. Wow. Now look, if somebody wants you dead and then they end up in some hot water, you ain't catching no crowd. If somebody wanted me dead and they end up in a bad situation, I'm not sharing my no deep concerns related to them. I'm just not. This is the level of illogical insanity that I think is just detrimental. This is not just talking about Republican and Democrat. This is talking about, here are people in our system right now, folks, who don't operate from the same mental space that we need them to operate from. Literally. Like, this is the same group of folks who are saying, follow us, we know the way, but who rallies behind a man who will throw them under the bus. Okay, let's go to your comments, folks. And I got so many of you are checking in. This is the thing about this whole situation, because it's mind-blowing how the president is getting all of this, quote unquote, I would say this fabricated, this fake pity. Let's just put it like that. And they even are throwing out the idea that the FBI, they're throwing out the idea that the FBI may have planted evidence. Republicans who work in the United States government are throwing out the idea that they believe that the FBI may have planted evidence, folks. People who are thinking, who are so wrapped up in their privilege and partisanship, are talking about leading the country, and we're supposed to believe them. That's another part of this conversation, because it speaks to how serious the documents are and how serious these circumstances really are. All right, let's go to some of your comments very quickly. Let's go to Jawan Yvette. Jawan, thank you so much for checking in. You say, look, I think Republicans are rallying around him because they're now afraid of their own dirt coming out from their ties to him. Yeah. But, more and more if I hear of Donald Trump, the more and more I'm getting mob boss. It just comes to my mind. It's just like, this dude is running mafia-style government. He's a mob boss. You don't want people to know how much money you really have. Every time the conversation about your money, your personal business comes into question, you get silent. You don't want people to know. You start to get your lawyers on the phone, all of that. But you want to leave this country. Jawan, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Good to hear from you. First on one of our new watchers. Damon, my guy. You say, of course, he's going to plead the fifth. He wouldn't show his taxes after all these years. Exactly. Of course. Why would he? Trump has been getting away with this stuff for years, folks. Years. Y'all know it. Look, some of you are older than me, right? You know it. He's been doing this for years. Look, when you listen to Forbes or any of these financial magazines, publications, any financial reporter, no one can definitively say how much he's worth, how much money he got, how much money does his company bringing. There's always these questions, these gray areas, this mystery about President Trump and his finances. And more importantly, there's always a mystery about how he says he's a billionaire or how he gets his money. Yes, some things has his Trump name on it, but the name is not that strong. His brand is actually taking hit after hit after hit during these past few years. Let's get to Chris. Chris said, Mike Pence, act like that man didn't try to get him killed. It's very simple. Belinda, you checked in. Belinda said, all the politicians crying injustices are shocked because this might just make them think twice about the long arm of the law reaching back for their asses one day. Exactly. All right, Will, you checked in and say, look, they all should be jailed for their complicity to this man. Right. Will Thompson, good to hear from you, man. Thank you so much for checking in. Mad Dollars Gaming. I love to hear from our new watchers, man. Thank you so much for y'all tuning in. Mad Dollars Gaming. He said, you said he committed treason and incited sedition, yet people or his sycophant follow him. They cannot be talked to. Leave them alone and vote. It is important. Well, let me tell you, if they are expected, and they're putting this thing out, Mad Dollars Gaming, they're putting this thing out like, yeah, the Republicans are going to win. They don't have to win, folks. They don't. And this is, for me, it's voting. Yes, that's important, but it's something much deeper. You're talking about leadership of a country that is evolving, changing, leadership of a country that has diverse interests. You're talking about leadership of a country that are dealing with both internal and external challenges and issues. And this is where the resources of, and this is how the heads of the leadership are thinking. Stan the Rams fan. So does Congress thrown in jail. Yeah. 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 And thank you, Stan, and Mad Dollars, thank you for checking in. The fact is, this is scary. This is scary. I don't know if we can emphasize this enough. This is not good, folks. This is not just, this is just normal political bickering back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans. This is a state of denial that is so destructive. A state of denial about the truth that is blatant to the American people. So not only are you lying to yourself, not only are you as a party lying, but you're lying to the American people, and you want us to go along with this lie. And then if we don't go along with this lie, you're going to create a story to make it seem like we're crazy, when in fact it's you that's crazy. And that's the part of this that I think that we can't forget. That at the end of the day, these are the same people that want to get our vote, that want us to put their trust in them. These are the same people that want us to believe that they have our interests in their best interest. Doesn't work that way. It absolutely does not work that way. And making sure on our end as constituents and citizens of this country, if you are serious about democracy, and this is a whole different conversation from just saving democracy. Remember, I talked about yesterday this idea of long-termism, which is this idea of thinking about the future people count. That's one of the premises of this idea. And if you think about the future, and I'm thinking, i.e. our children, what are they going to inherit over the next 10 to 15, maybe 20 years down the road? If the country continues to go in the direction that it's going, they're not going to be able to inherit much of nothing, especially Black children, Latino children, children who are often marginalized, who are part of groups that are marginalized. What are you talking about? What is going to be the future of this country? We really do need to ask ourselves this question. The other part about futurism, long-termism, is the idea that what we do today impacts us tomorrow. So if we're in a state of denial today, well, what do you think the impact will be of that tomorrow? As we wrap up, this is President Trump's statement to the press. Let's just put this up here, if you can, Keenan. I want to just throw this up there. You can put it at the bottom. However, it's crazy. He wrote this on his media platform, Truth Social. His statement to the press. He said the FBI and others from the federal government would not let anyone, including my lawyers, be anywhere near the areas they were rummaged and otherwise looked at during the raid at Mar-a-Lago. He wrote this on Truth Social. He said everyone was asked to leave the premises. They wanted to be left alone without any witnesses to see what they were doing, talking, or hopefully not planting. Lying. Puts out little things. Yes, then they're going to plant it. As we close this point, I want to make this point. For those who say, well, y'all go hard on Trump, y'all go hard on Republicans, the Democrats, everybody is complicit, right? Look, nobody. Here's the thing. How can you say you are going to run for the highest office of the land? How can you say that you love this country and the institutions, right? But you don't offer an alternative. You just go into demolition mode. You don't say, hey, we can do these things better, or let's look at the rule of law, or you don't even admit to the fact that you may have done something wrong, the big thing. But you go to break down and to instill a level of distrust in the very institutions that you say you want to represent. Tell me how that's smart. So you want us to believe that you don't trust the institutions, but therefore we should trust you as an individual who has a history of lying, a history of cover-up, a history of doing things that are illegal. You have a history, but you want us to believe you in understanding your context of the institutions that you want us to that you plan to represent as president of the United States. This is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. We're in trouble. This is very serious. And at this point, as the American people, we need to do our due diligence and figure out a way to make sure, not just voting, but we need to do our due diligence to figure out how do we make government really work for us? Because at this point, the things that need to be passed, laws, the things that need to be done to save people's lives in this country, to improve people's lives in this country, will not be done. They won't be done, folks. I can't deny the fact that I'm from the United States of America. And I won't deny that fact. But even more importantly, I can't deny the fact that this is my home and I need this country to be better. I need this country to be better. I want it to be better. I need this country to be better. And I can't expect none of these people that are in office right now to make that better. And me giving all of my hope to them and me not doing my due diligence as a citizen to ensure that my vote, my hope, my vision of what I think should happen in this country comes into fruition is not going to happen by me sitting on my hands. And it's not going to happen by you sitting on your hands. It's going to happen when we say enough is enough. We start to take action. We start to organize. We start to get involved. We are in trouble because leadership don't know. So since leadership don't know, it's time for us to know. Look, we got to take a quick pause when we move forward. Let's talk about the situation across the water with Israel, Gaza. Israel had launched another set of airstrikes against Gaza with the timing of their national elections. And let's also get some insight about the latest around 4 Muslims being killed down in New Mexico. We'll have the conversation with Laura Alabas from the Institute of Palestinian Studies to share her thoughts with us. Stay with us. That conversation is coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Folks, welcome back to the show. Let's have a conversation as we switch gears to talk about national issues to international issues. And we're keeping our eyes on how this situation between Israel and Palestine continues to unfold, as it was reported just a couple of days ago that a number of airstrikes have been launched against Palestine again. by Israel. These people with Palestinians responding in kind with airstrikes, and a high-ranking jihad leader was killed just a couple of days ago. When we look at this situation, many people are wondering, will there ever be peace in the Middle East? And this is a long, long questions with big conditions, and the relationship between Israel and Palestine. To give us some insight into across the waters and the impact that it's making on the people, we are joined by my as well as after this. Laura, thank you so much for joining us once again. How are you, sir?
Hi, Farajii. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm
I'm doing okay, but it's a lot to take in
right,
after everything.
Just into the big things, and to my team, let's see if we can talk a little bit. But I want to share with this, and that's my man Keenan's working on it. Let me know when we're having this. Let's take a quick pause. When we come back to Laura, let's try to get our technical issues dealt with. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We just had to get through some technical glitches. Let's bring in my sister, my comrade, Laura Alabas, as we talk a little bit about what's been happening with the latest set of the airstrikes from Israel to Palestine, the impact that it's making on the people, the killing of one of the jihad leaders there, of a high-ranking official, and so much more. Sister Laura, always a pleasure to have you on The Culture. Welcome back. How are you this afternoon?
Thank you so much for having me, Farajii. I'm happy to be speaking about this today.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, one of the big things, Laura, that you're doing, of course, is communications. Your work with the Institute of Palestinian Studies. But this latest set of attacks that we saw coming from Israel, some people said it's a justified thing. Other people are saying, when will it end? First and foremost, I've read that there were some Israeli elections that were taking place. And then these attacks started to happen. when you and I talked offline, you said, Farajii, this always happens in times when it's time to vote in Israel. Give me some context of that. What has been happening, and why do you think the timing of these attacks happens around the election time?
Of course, it's important to note first that this is not something that just happens out of nowhere. Suddenly in the news cycle, we hear about Israel attacking the Palestinians, killing the Palestinians. This is an occupation that has lasted more than 74 years.
Yeah.
I'm a granddaughter of refugees. I lived in a refugee camp growing up. I've been kicked out of my own home in Palestine, as was my family. When we look at what has happened this weekend, we have to look at it in that context, the context of a 74-year occupation and a 15-year blockade on the Gaza Strip, which is a very small area that has millions of Palestinians living there, blockaded, besieged. Their mobility is controlled. There's no electricity being allowed in by the Israelis. There's water shortages, undrinkable water, all because of the Israelis. Now, what has happened on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday throughout the weekend? Israel launched what they called a preemptive attack. They said, oh, they might attack us, so let's just hit them first. We didn't do anything. We're under occupation. We're under a blockade. They killed 45 Palestinians, including 16 children. And one of those 5 children were 4 brothers and a relative that were visiting a cemetery in northern Gaza, and they were targeted. And there are videos of them shown as their torn limbs. These children were doing nothing. And the problem here, when you're talking about people justifying these attacks, if you need justification for the killing of children, you are an evil person. There's no justification for attacking civilians, for attacking children. So I'll start there.
And so you know, it brings up the question as to, Laura, that will there ever be any type of reconciliation between these, you know, the Palestinians and Israelis at this point? You're saying no.
No, I'm going to say no, because you cannot ask someone who is oppressed, someone who is suffering, to kneel and submit and accept their oppressor and their occupier. And just to, you know, Israel, it's an apartheid state. It is trying to break the will of the Palestinians. Last year, during the Unity Intifada, during the attacks in Jerusalem and on Gaza, they killed more than 260 people, including 67 children that were on the front page of the New York Times, which means there has been a recognition of Israeli human rights crimes. What is different this year? Why has everyone stayed quiet this weekend, completely ignored what's going on? I just want to go back to the question you asked me earlier related to elections. If you look at the election cycle of the Israeli parliament, the Israeli Knesset, you will see that with every election that comes, there has been an assault on Gaza. With everyone. Why does this happen? Because of the right-wing parties in Israel. They're trying to sort of show strength. They're trying to show power. They go on the slogan of security. You vote for us, we're going to give you security. And they want to show you that they're going to give you security as an Israeli citizen for them to vote for you. So Netanyahu's bloc right now is the biggest bloc. It is projected that he might come back to power as a prime minister. And they're all together, Yair Lapid, the defense minister Gantz, they all worked closely together. They're all of the same bloc. They all agree with each other. So they attack Gaza because an election is coming up and they want to show strength. This is what always happens. If you look at previous cycles from 2008, from 2014, 2012, all these years that have taken place, they just want to show strength. And there is no reconciliation, Farajii, because we want justice. We want liberation and justice. We're not going to just accept what has happened to us. We want to return to our homes. We want to defend ourselves. We want to take back our land. There will never be reconciliation.
There will never be a reconciliation. And and you're seeing it, and I know other young Palestinian activists and organizers, I'm sure they're probably feeling the same way. What role, by us being in the States, we know that the relationship between America and Israel is an unbreakable bond. Do you feel like at this point that it's still worth a try to get America to try to provide some level of assistance, supports, resources to the Palestinian people?
Yes, and let me tell you why. There was a recent poll that came out by Brookings that showed that I believe 30% of Democratic voters are against Israel because of Israeli crimes. And this is probably the biggest percentage in years in the Democratic Party. Knowing that Biden supports Israel, that Biden put out a statement saying that the Iron Dome is saving lives when when Israel has killed many Palestinian lives. So it's important to note that there has been a lot of shifts, and we've talked about it before. We've talked about it when it came to Congress, when representatives like Mary Newman, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, they all came on the Congress, on the House floor, and they talked about Israeli apartheid. We've seen people protest across many states and many cities in the United States. There is a shift coming, but the struggle is only getting harder and harder and more difficult as we move forward. Just look at the midterm elections. If you notice, almost every GOP, every Republican candidate, and a few Democratic candidates who are, part of the establishment, have tweeted, "We believe that Israel has the right to defend itself, and we condemn blah blah blah." It's almost a rite of passage to enter the Senate and to enter the House for these candidates, just to tell the Israel lobby in the United States that we're with you and we care about you more. And a different example of that is President Biden last month had a visit to the Middle East.
Yep.
And when did he have his visit? In the midst of midterm elections, when the abortion rights of millions of women in the country have been revoked, and there were protests every day in front of the Supreme Court, gas prices were at their highest ever, and he has currently, and had at the time when he went, the lowest approval rating as a president. So he put the needs of Israel, of an apartheid state, and the needs of the Saudi government, another criminal state, on top of the needs of his own people in the United States. He just went there to show face with the Israelis, with war criminals in Israel and war criminals in Saudi Arabia, to maybe not shake hands with them, but to bump fists and to stay quiet as they show the world that we own this president and he's here for us. I think this is important. It's very, very, very important to look at. And it's also important to say that he was doing the bidding of the Democratic Party and the Israel lobby. He's not the president of the United States. He's a president that's only doing the bidding of other organizations and other groups that want to have influence in the United States. And he's not running in 2024. I don't think Biden is running in 2024. So
Laura, he keeps saying that he is.
I don't think he is. I think he's done. I think Biden's done.
I think so too. And it's unfortunate that in 2022 we still haven't been able to resolve the question or the big concern around Israel and Palestine. That in 2022 you have a United Nations, you have NATO, you have all of these different kind of like coalitions of countries, and blood is still being shed in that part of the region, in that part of the world. It seems like every single day with no resolution in sight. There might be, a ceasefire for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, but then the violence starts right back up again. And I think that it's weighing, I know it's weighing on the Palestinian people. I know it's weighing on the Israeli people, and folks across this country are just trying to figure out, like, what do I do? How do we deal with this? But I want to kind of get your thoughts very quickly on the killing of the Islamic Jihad leader Khalid Mansour, who was killed as a result of the airstrike on a building in Rafah. Talk to us a little bit about Khalid and what role he played, and how will this killing impact the larger conversation about Israel-Palestinian relations?
Farajii, the goal is not to target Palestinian armed groups who are resistance groups fighting back because nobody else is fighting for us. The United Nations is not fighting for us. The US is not fighting for us. Even our own brothers in the UAE and Morocco, who have normalized relations with Israel, are not fighting for us. These groups do not have American weapons. They do not have freedom of movement. They do not have electricity. They don't have billions of dollars of aid from Europe and the United States that are going for services to the people and going to the Iron Dome and to Israel. They're people. They're not groups. They're people who are fed up of being under occupation. They're people who are fed up of being under the blockade. The Palestinian people are the ones who are suffering. And the fact that news media keeps focusing, oh, look at this armed group, look at this militant group, they're disregarding that there are millions of people living in Gaza, that are living in Palestine, that are suffering from the Israeli occupation. Israelis are not targeting armed groups, they are targeting the Palestinian people. They go out and say, oh, we targeted this Islamic Jihad guy and we targeted this militant. But the real story is they killed 45 people who are civilians, including 16 children. That's the real story. That's what we're looking for. They use it as a justification so that people abroad in the United States and politicians don't go out and say, oh, why did you kill these children? Oh, we were just targeting quote unquote terrorists. If we look different and have different names, and we live in a different continent that most Americans probably can't name, that does not mean that we are a threat. That does not mean that we are a threat. And what I want to also come back to is, violence doesn't flare up. It's always there, right? A ceasefire came out a few days ago. Yeah. But today they killed a bunch of people in a raid in the West Bank, and they did that yesterday as well. That did not stop. That does not stop. And in fact, a few days before the strikes on Gaza, they had raided the city of Jenin again, the same city where they murdered Shireen Abu Akleh, the Palestinian journalist correspondent for Al Jazeera. The same city. They went back and raided it and killed a teenager, a 16-year-old teenager. And you talked a little bit about reconciliation, and the reason I say there's no reconciliation, I'm going to bring South Africa into the mix. We look at South Africa. We look at the Truth and Reconciliation Committee that came afterwards. South Africa is still in a terrible economic state for Black people and people of color. The government of South Africa is pushing for justice. They're pushing for economic equality. They're pushing to punish the perpetrators of South African apartheid. This is what we want. We want accountability. We want justice. We want to be able to move. We want to be able to be free. We want to be able to not cry over and have funerals for people who are killed, for our families, for our homes that are destroyed. Gaza did not recover from the May attack in 2021. They are still rebuilding after the rubble, and now they have to rebuild again. One last thing, the United States and how the media covered the killing. Actually, I'm just going to stop there. Let me see what you have for me.
No, I get it. I mean, this whole situation continues to unfold. And my final question, Laura, is when we look at, how everything is playing out on the Ukraine-Russian side, right? There's been the amount of money, we're over 40 billion that's there. With it, military equipment has been given. Political support has been provided by the United States for Ukraine. And there is more of a concerted effort to get that war over quicker than it is between the Palestinians and Israelis. And I'm just wondering, just from you as a woman who studies like international, the relationships between countries, what does that say? What does this recent conflict with Russia and between Russia and Ukraine say about this long-standing conflict between Palestine and Israel for you?
For me, I don't like relating them. I feel that they are separate. I think the only thing that they should relate the way they're perceived internationally by the media. The media covered the resistance of the Ukrainian people against the invasion of Russia as a triumph, as something to celebrate, as something to look to. They started filming how they were creating Molotov cocktails, sending away their men to fight the Russian army. But when the same thing happens in the Middle East, when the same thing happens in Palestine, there's an invasion 74 years ago, there's an occupation, a blockade, and people are fighting back, it is not perceived in the same way. And, just talking about communications, talking about the media does not cover Palestine or the killings that happen in the same way that they cover it when there's, quote unquote, a flare-up or an attack that has taken place between Gaza and Israel. The media is looking for a story that's going to make you excited, that's going to make you just click on it. Oh, what's going on? Let's look at this very pop culture, entertainment-esque, Hollywood-esque style conflict that is happening. Let's look at it. But they do not cover the killings that happen every day. They do not cover how people cannot move. In the same way in the United States, when they cover the killing of one Black child, but they don't cover how there are crumbling mothers, the mothers who are suffering. They do not cover how there are people who cannot go to school. They do not cover how people cannot get access to healthcare. It is the same tactic that goes in the United States, happens right there. And I think that's something we need to focus on when we look at the media. We need to look at it in a very critical lens. What
Absolutely.
are they not telling you? What are they not telling you? And why are they only telling you this right now? Do they really care to give you the information that you need to know?
That's a great question. That's a great question. And, Laura, on this show, especially, we're always trying to raise the questions around context, right? Around understanding a situation from all sides. And there are a lot of people that, I see some of the comments that are coming in about this whole discussion and about what's, what about the situation between Israel and Palestine. And I just feel like, we're so bombarded with one form of propaganda on this side that we really don't know. We don't know what it's like to constantly be under occupation for 30 and 40 years. We don't, in America, and I'm saying that as Black people, of course, we've gone through slavery, and of course, we're dealing with, systemic injustice and systemic racism. But we're talking about bombs dropping. Like just what that does to the psyche of any human being. That you could say, okay, it's a Sunday here in America. We don't have bombs dropping every so often. Whereas in that part of the world, Palestine, and you can go to a marketplace and you don't know if you're going to come back home.
And
you know what I'm saying? We don't know. We don't know that if I mean, just to put it in perspective, we don't know. And there's a little bit of privilege. I mean, there's some privilege here in the United States that you can speak out against the government. And that's just one of the great freedoms of this country, right? You can speak out against the government, the injustices of the government. You can organize and rally without the government responding always in kind and violence. There's we have a platform and there's a space for that. In other countries, it's not like that.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us in this part of the world, we tend to take that for granted or overlook the fact that those freedoms are afforded to us.
Yeah. But you also have the power. It's your tax money that's funding the killing of Palestinians. As an American, $3.8 billion of tax money goes to the Israeli military, not aid. It's to the military. And you mentioned how PTSD, there's trauma there. There's something that the Israelis refer to as knock on the roof. And it's basically send a small rocket on the roof of your house to alert you that in 2 minutes, we're going to bomb you. So get the hell out.
Right.
Can you imagine how that makes a child feels to just live in constant terror?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, we're it's a humanitarian thing. We're trying to warn them. You're not warning them. You have destroyed their home. You have killed them. You have killed their future.
Wow. Laura, it's always a pleasure and a real honor to talk to you. I know you're doing great work. Is there any particular any new writings that you want us to to kind of put some emphasis on as you're doing the work of putting out messages and telling people the other side of this story between Palestine and Israel.
Yeah,
What you got for us?
Of course, there's an article I think everyone who's watching might benefit from, just to learn a little bit about the Israel lobby and how they fund elections in the United States. And it's actually on the Institute for Palestine Studies website. It's about IPAC and how they really throw millions and millions of dollars against candidates just to make sure that candidates who support Israel go into power. I think it's important to look at that and just to keep listening to Palestinians, follow Palestinians, read Palestinians, listen to what they're saying. Give us space. You're doing that, Farajii, so I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Laura Albas, and she's doing the work. And she's a Washington Post columnist. She's the senior editor for the Institute of Palestinian Studies, and doing the work of making sure that we have a full view, a full context of the story of the great conflict between Palestine and Israel. Laura, thank you so much for being on the show once again. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. As we move forward, let's talk about the CDC. Let's talk about COVID-19 vaccinations and where we are. Let's have a conversation about public health. Stay with us. That discussion is coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially at Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Folks, welcome to the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you missed the first hour, you missed a great hour as we kind of got your reactions to the latest in the Trump investigation, from the raid of the FBI on his Mar-a-Lago property to the investigation from the New York State's Attorney General. So we had that conversation. Plus, we checked in with Laura Albas from the Institute of Palestinian Studies to talk to us about the latest airstrikes from Israel to Gaza and the impact and the ongoing conflict there between the Palestinians and the Israelis. So if you missed that first hour, make sure you check it out. Also, make sure you check us out at blackstarnetwork.com, where we are looking for your financial donations to continue to support us as we're moving forward to expand the work of the Black Star Network. We're talking about taking this thing to a whole new level, as Brother Roland mentioned, taking it to a 24-hour streaming service. So if you want to be a part of this history-making move, then definitely show your support at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks, for our next discussion, we wanted to have a conversation around COVID-19 and the vaccinations and more updates from the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. Joining us right now is Mr. Robert Bailey, who serves as the Public Health Program Specialist with the CDC. As we're talking about how do you prepare children to go back to school with recent rising cases of COVID-19 and so much more. Mr. Bailey, thank you so much for checking in and being with us this afternoon. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Bailey, first and foremost, let's talk about where we are with COVID-19, because now it seems like public health is the number one issue. Again, it's been a number one issue throughout the year. But with this rise of monkeypox cases, now there's been some talk about polio is kind of coming back into the picture. Where are we with COVID-19 and handling this situation?
Yeah, well, thanks again for having us on to be able to talk about this with your viewing audience. And so, as you know, since the COVID-19 pandemic started, thousands of children and youth in the United States have been hospitalized and hundreds have died. And so we're here to remind people that you have the power to protect your children against COVID-19 and severe illness.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks. Again, we were talking to Mr. Robert Bailey, who is the public health program specialist with the CDC. And Mr. Bailey, thank you again for being with us. You mentioned that that children across the country have been hospitalized as a result of what we've been seeing with COVID-19. What age group are we talking about here, Mr. Bailey?
Well, we're talking from, if you talk to your pediatrician friends, from young babies on up through those who are going to college. It has affected all children because of the spread of the disease. As you know, right now, the incidence of or the number of cases, continues to be an issue. Some people have become laxed over these past few months because of thinking that everything was under control. But when you're dealing with an infectious disease, you have to stay vigilant, and that's the reason why now that children that are 6 months and older are eligible to be vaccinated, we're asking for them to get vaccinated because it's a key step in protecting the children and youth from getting very sick from COVID-19.
So when we talk about these vaccinations, right, when we're talking about just in terms of the recommendations, there has been so many different things out there, right? And I think that, we've been involved with this pandemic for over 2 years now. And a lot of people have said, hey, the CDC is, and I, as a person that study messaging and communication, people have said, I'm looking like, okay, what is the right message that we need to get across, especially to Black people and to marginalized communities and communities that have been impacted by COVID? What is the right thing, the right guidance? Because I feel like at this point, people are just saying, you know what? I'm gonna just have to figure this thing out on my own, because it seems to be a lot of mixed messaging on that. Have you? I'm sure you heard that in the sense we've been dealing with this pandemic, Mr. Bell.
Yeah, absolutely. Misinformation has continued to be an issue. And from a communication standpoint, a messaging standpoint, that we live in a time where you can find information to suit whatever it is that you may feel about any kind of situation. And that's the reason why we encourage everyone to get the facts. It's great to talk with family and friends, but we encourage you to visit, www.cdc.gov for more information, because the misinformation is going to continue, and only by educating yourself and listening and following the science is what's going to be able to carry us through this pandemic.
All right, so let's talk about the fact that there have been a number of different forms of vaccinations. Of course, there has been the Moderna one, there has been Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. Can I keep it real with you, sir?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Johnson and Johnson, I think that of the three top vaccine makers and distributors, seems to be like the one that has constantly having trouble. Why does the CDC still recommend Johnson and Johnson, even though we're still seeing signs of tampering? There's been evidence of just not handling the vaccine in the utmost care. Why are we? Why is that message of Johnson and Johnson in particular still being put out there?
Well, the thing is that we continue to follow the science. One of the things is that the vaccines were never compared to each other. They were all, they all went through the clinical trials. They all were examined and looked at in terms of their safety and effectiveness. And so that's what we continue to do. We continue to follow what the data shows us, and our guidance evolves as we see changes. And so until then, we'll continue to do that. We're going to continue to monitor that. One of the things actually that your audience can help us in doing so is visiting vsafe.cdc.gov. To make sure that the COVID vaccines are safe, we actually expanded and strengthened the country's ability to monitor vaccine safety. And so we've launched this initiative to monitor the safety in real time through that vSafe. And again, that's vsafe.cdc.gov. And so until there's news otherwise, or until the evidence supports that, we continue to put forward the same guidance.
Okay. So, I mean, is Johnson and Johnson a safe vaccine for the American people to take?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Is Johnson and Johnson still a safe vaccine for the American people to take?
Yeah, I'm not here to recommend one vaccine or another, but can say that as long as we continue to recommend it, it is safe. We have deemed that it is safe for the public.
Now, how does that fit into the other part of the conversation around, we know President Biden had COVID, he had it twice within a very short period. Based upon our research, there's that, what they call the COVID rebound as it related to Paxlovid, that vaccine that he's taken. Talk to us a little bit about that. How does a person get COVID once? Couple of days later, they find this second version of COVID. And then, even Dr. Fauci had talked about this, having this kind of COVID rebound. What health state is that?
You said what health state is that?
Yeah. Like, how does that happen?
Well, the thing is, sometimes when you are infected, recovery isn't always a straight line. Sometimes you have peaks and valleys, and it varies from one person to the next. So there's no way to be able to predict how someone is going to react how their body is going to react once they are infected with COVID, and that's the reason why. And you've heard this from Dr. Fauci, you've heard this from President Biden and others, that what would things have looked like if they were not vaccinated? And that's the reason why none of us can predict how our bodies will react. We can only look at how it has affected others to this date. And that's the reason why we continue to recommend the vaccinations.
Got you. The other vaccines, and I know that the CDC, you guys had put it out there just maybe a few days ago, talking about the Novavax now being recommended. Saying that is a protein-based vaccine using an older technology. Why is this vaccine being recommended, and why is this something that should be considered in our vaccine choices?
Well, as I mentioned before, that the CDC scientists are continuing to work to learn more about all of the variants, and will continue to provide updates as the public to the public as cases evolve, and that's just it. The guidance evolves, the recommendations evolve as we look to see what is most effective, and so with that, it has to do with what is the best version of the vaccine. And you see similar types of approaches to how we deal with other types of infectious disease, as with the flu. We're coming up on flu season, which is also why people need to be vaccinated for flu. And it's the same thing, that that the same flu vaccine is not necessarily given every year. It's based upon what it is that they can foresee in forecasting in terms of what will be in the greatest circulation and what will offer the greatest protection to the public. And so that's the reason why, again, we are continuing to we're continuing to recommend you get the vaccine that is available to you, because it still remains our strongest protection.
And so I'm glad that you brought that up, that the flu season is coming up. You know, there is some great concern around, you know, taking a vaccine for the flu season, especially if you take it already for COVID, if you're getting the booster shots. What is the CDC saying about the mixing of these vaccines and the impact that it has on the body?
Yeah, it's absolutely safe to be able to take the vaccines, the flu vaccine, as well as the COVID vaccine. Matter of fact, you know, with you know, as we're here to talk about, you know, the children and vaccines as they're returning to school, we know that routine vaccinations, that some people have put them off. And so the only way that we're able to then to contain the spread of vaccine preventable diseases like polio and like, you know, and the others is that we continue make sure that we return to those routine vaccinations, because they've been deemed deemed that it's been safe, that it is safe to get have multiple vaccinations, and that there isn't like the commingling or other ill effects from doing so.
Absolutely. I want to, you know, go to our watchers, folks. You make sure you can post your comments on our Facebook, YouTube pages, and share your questions, as we've been talking to Mr. Robert Bailey, who is a public health program specialist with the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and to get his take on this. So when you say recommendations, Mr. Bailey, when there's that recommendation, it does not mean and you know, we're in a very partisan political space right now in this country. The recommendations is, hey, look, you can take this, but there's still some room for you to make your own decision. Or are we at the point, and I've seen political leadership and I've seen other type of folks say, no, it's either this or that there's no room for men and women, for families, for moms and dads to think about their children, to say, you know what, I'm going to opt out of this situation. I think that's one of the big part of this conversation is like, there are recommendations, but you know what, you have to still make the ultimate decision on what's best for you and your family. What's the CDC stance on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, CDC, we offer broad guidance, but we've also have included on our website community levels that help communities and individuals make decisions on what prevention strategies make the most sense for them based on the level of COVID in the community. So if it's classified as low or medium or high, the strategies should change. So if you see that there's an outbreak and that you have extremely high cases, then you need to consider layering those prevention strategies. You need to think about, you need to consider testing and the masking indoors and those sorts of things. So it's not a one what we just say, a one size fits all type of approach. As you're absolutely right in what it is that you've said, that it is based on what is the level in your community. So we provide that overall outlook and provide those tools that communities and individuals can use to make their own decisions.
Yeah, and I know that especially coming up on the school season, there are so many people that are trying to figure out whether they should have their child wear masks going back to school. Should we expect some sort of guidance, some recommendation from the CDC over the next couple of weeks? Given the rise in COVID-19 cases, given monkeypox, that we'll probably go back to, either masking indoors, some level of social distancing that we've experienced last year and the year before. Should we expect that in the next couple of weeks from you?
Well, that guidance is already up, is already on our site.
Okay.
So if you actually go, there's a section where you actually can look at children in school. Matter of fact, I think a week or two ago, held a webinar for to provide more information about kids and going back to school and what should be some of the considerations that parents and caregivers and guardians should consider. And so the recording to that you actually can find at www.cdc.gov protect dash children.
Let's put that website out for us one more time, Mr. Bailey.
It's www.cdc.gov, protect dash children. And I'll also see.
Awesome.
I also put in the chat for you so you can see the link.
Okay. Awesome. And I again, I appreciate the fact that, we can have a conversation. Of course, the COVID-19 has come from a public health space to something else. I mean, it's mind blowing to see how this whole thing has kind of exploded. So many people have thoughts about how the United States and the CDC has been handling this situation, but we're not out of the woods yet. We're definitely not out of the woods yet. But I'm wondering, as we move into the other public health issues of monkeypox, for example, what type of handling should we expect from the CDC on that situation?
Yeah, we continue to brief public health experts and physicians, health departments on like what is the broad guidance that they should follow. When it comes to any disease, and particularly those that may be emerging or emerging in our communities. And so I can understand your point, where there are questions about, what is it that we should be doing, given, where we are now with the epidemic. But one of the things I would want to mention, and I'm, I don't want to be completely out of whack for saying this, but in terms of sharing with you, and in terms of this being so important to like the culture, and I love the name of your show. It's the thing that with public health, that the thing about public health is that individual decisions do impact others. And so the idea that, it can be your choice or not to get vaccinated. It can be your choice to wear a mask or to get tested. But the fact is that the decision that you make does impact others. That's the way that infectious diseases work. So if there's a lot of disease circulating in your community, the chances of you contracting it are higher, which is the reason why you need to do more to protect yourself. If there's less disease in your community, maybe you don't need as many layers of protection. But the fact is that the decision you make does impact, other people.
And to that point, I think that comes from, yesterday we had a conversation or 2 days ago, we had a conversation here where we talk about, it's not just the content of what's being said, but it's also the medium by which that content is displayed. And I think that's the other issue, that there is a lot of distrust that people have of government institutions in general. And now that we are in a space where we have these various public health challenges, that people just say, you know what, the CDC has been coming out with mixed messages, or they feel like the CDC has come out with mixed messages. And I've expressed the same type of, concern and frustration as well. But, so it also speaks to, the fact that there has to be a level of trust that has to be established between the people and the institution in order for people to say, okay, I'm going to take these recommendations. I'm going to take this guidance seriously. Is the CDC working with, and I know I've seen the campaigns, influencers and all of those folks, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, you're talking to Black and brown people who have been lied to blatantly and behind closed doors about the state of our health, about the state of our community. And there's some real trust issues. I mean, can you, and I know you can't speak to on a long-term situation, but can you speak to the fact of how does an institution restore the trust with the constituents, with the people that it's, supposed to serve? And because a lot of the burden is placed on the citizens, but from an institutional perspective, how does an institution say, you know what, there have been some things said that we weren't always good, that might not been in your best interest. So therefore, we're going to try to do something differently. What do you see happening to change that?
Well, the first thing that came to mind when you said that is I did quite a bit of work with civil rights organizations over the years, and one of the things that always sticks with me was a quote from a gentleman that said that Black folks had developed a healthy paranoia of various institutions, just in general, just because of all the different things that you had mentioned. And we know that misinformation can be confusing, misleading, and ultimately deter people from receiving, the proper health care that they need. And so, CDC is one of those credible sources. The health department, your healthcare provider, are trusted sources, and those are the only things that you can do to kind of impact that misinformation. But to your point, though, about talking about what is it that we've been doing to move forward to be able to help reinforce that trust, or to be able to make sure that those messages are reaching the people that are disproportionately affected, is that we're continuing to work with news media outlets such as your show. Again, thank you so much for allowing us to be able to come here on the culture, because that's the only way we can get out of this. We really do believe, and I can attest to this, that we can make a difference to increase the vaccinations, protect our loved ones, and reduce the impact of the COVID-19 in society if we continue to work together with those communities and outlets that have access to the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, and here's my motivation to have you on, Mr. Bailey. My motivation is, and people know where I stand on COVID and everything else, but more importantly, my motivation is, this is a platform where even if I have a difference of opinion, I still think that we need to have the conversation, right? Like, we're not going to be able to move forward in bridging the gaps of our differences if we don't talk to one another. And so for me, it's critically important for me to make sure that people hear both sides of the conversation, but more importantly, that they are empowered to make their own decision about what's right for them and their families, right? And I think that's where a lot of my watchers are, that yes, if you want to get vaccinated, certainly get vaccinated. If you choose not to get vaccinated, then make sure that you're taking other precautions and measures to keep you and other people safe. If you're going to wear a mask, if you're going to do everything else that you need to do. And then the other thing is to make sure that the place, your knowledge base, is coming from a place of facts, not just from hearsay. And so, and I think that at this point in time, the American people, Black people, white people, Latino people, we just want the truth, man. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like the truth has become a premium in this country, where opinion is for sale on the discount. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's crazy. I just want the truth. Tell me the truth. We're all adults. We can handle the truth. Once we start from a place of truth, then we can get to a place of justice. We can get into a place where people can feel empowered. And that's the best place I think we can be at this country in this time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And that's the reason why we are here, because we're interested in the truth. Believe me, I would not be coming on here if it was just a matter of trying to kind of blow smoke, and try to, cover up, some other type of thing that may be going on. The things that we mentioned, the science matter, the data matter, and the recommendations continue to matter. And that's the reason why we're continuing to recommend that you get the vaccine that's available to you. My son actually just got his second dose of his vaccine just a couple of weeks ago. I'm also vaxxed and boosted, and I can tell you that. And the reason why I love the name of the show in terms of the culture, because rooted in the name of the show being called The Culture is the idea of being authentic, and that bringing on here that being authentic voices that are going to be able to give you the information, give it to you straight. You again make your own decisions, but again, to your point, the thing that you can do once you're armed with that information is do the things that we know work. To be vaccinated, staying at home when you're sick, getting tested, or wearing a mask when appropriate, hand washing, covering your coughs. All these things that we know work for other diseases also work for COVID. It may seem basic and it may seem redundant at this point, but we know that it works. The vaccines are working for everybody, including Black folks. And that's the reason why I'm here, and the reason why CDC is working with shows like yours, Mr. Mohammed, in terms of getting the information to the people so they can make the best choice for themselves and their families.
Absolutely. There it is. There it is. Mr. Robert Bailey, who serves as the public health program specialist for the CDC. King Keenan, let's put that website on the screen for folks to get more information. See what the CDC has to say about getting your children in a healthy place, especially as we start the school season, folks. And I know it's CDC. Let me make sure we do it right. CDC.gov /protect -children. CDC.gov /protect-children. And of course, as we are looking not just what Mr. Bailey said, but also looking at the recommendations for schools and school districts across the country. Mr. Robert Bailey, we appreciate you for being on this culture here on the Black Star Network. We truly thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk to Dr. Dunn of the Dunn Foundation to talk about the 11th annual Back to School Drive and why it's important for us to never forget about the community we come from. Stay with it. That conversation is coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, thank you so much for being with us. For our final conversation for today, we wanted to talk about the importance of community service and how you can start to do your part to give back. Well, this is something that the Dunn Foundation is planning to do as they are looking to host their 11th annual Back to School free book bag and supplies giveaway. Yep, take a look here, folks. If you're in the DC area and you're looking to get some, if you need it or someone else you know needs some back to school supplies, because it's that time of year. I know I had to get my son his stuff. We went out there and had to get our supplies because they go quick. Y'all know it. They go quick. So make sure you check this out. What the Dunn Foundation is doing. They're going to be packing 1,000 book bags with supplies and bags of fruit to be given out at Iverson Mall in Prince George's County, Maryland. So if you're in the DC area, definitely come on out. We got Dr. William Dunn on the show to talk to us a little bit about the great work that the Dunn Foundation is doing in this area and the importance of community service. Dr. Dunn, thank you so much for checking in with us on the culture. Look at this doc. Doc got all the degrees on the back, but then look, he ain't got his doctor coat on today. Hey Doc, we got you on mute, brother. Oh yeah, let's get you off mute. We need to hear what you gotta say. All right, do we got him? And folks, make sure y'all post your comments as we talk to Dr. William Dunn today. Make sure. Yep, I can hear you now, Doc.
Yes. Yeah, I don't. I try to change the narrative. My story of how I got my doctorate degree is totally different than the average person. And plus, to change the narrative, there's a lot of young Black men who look like me. I love hip hop music. I came from that culture that we could be able to change the narrative. So when people are out in the community and see someone who looks like me and wonder, are they who they are? That narrative doesn't change. And when I was growing up, I was told, earrings in your ear and tattoos were kind of like taboo. It was all associated with more negativity, which it was, and that's what it was in terms of my dynamic.
Right.
Achieving my doctorate degree, which I chased it based on learning. Other than that, I'm a former athlete. I played college and pro basketball. I played in CBA, chased that for a while. So all of the core stereotypes of what one would look like, to be smart, to be educated, changing that narrative, what that looks like is part of that. So that's what you see here is what you get.
Hey Doc, the show is called The Culture, so I love the fact that you represent for the culture the way you do, man. Brother, I love that, and more importantly, I love the fact that you keeping that in mind from your past, and then you're like, look, we gotta change the narrative, because I know, brother, that so many Black men, and I'm one of those who have been typecasted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of where we came from.
Right.
We came from. You know what I mean? What our zip code is. What what school we went to. All of those things. And I'm just, each and every day we're doing the job. We're doing the great work of just shattering those myths about Black people in this country.
Right. And particularly Black men. I grew up between Virginia and New York City. I was involved in negativity, gang activity. If you want, I lost 3 of my friends before I was 21 to violence. I'm a product of a high school parent. I mean, all of the dynamics. My brother didn't graduate from high school, had a baby at 16. My sister went at 17. So all of the stereotypes of what my community, my family, and communities face every single day in terms of the Black community is still out there. And so the one thing that, I try to change the narrative about is learning, right? We know degrees is not for everyone, but learning is. And so I chased learning. I fell into this space, and I said I fell into it because, the competitive edge of me, I was in a class when I came out, I served in Iraq as well. So, part of that, what does an Iraqi veteran look like, right? What does a doctor look like? What does a smart person look like? We were all taught in our era that, people who look different and grew up in certain neighborhoods were smarter. We were just taught that. And we started to believe it. We started to believe that. They started to say, you don't want to become that. You want to become that, based on your environment, your community.
Right.
That still exists to this day, where there's a stereotype about what you should be like in terms of your success. The only success that we see in our Black community in terms of that, people who have grown is either they're entertainers, right? Jay-Z, Beyonce, millionaires, or we hear athletes, or they're intelligent. You need to present yourself a certain type of way. Then professionalism has nothing to do with your look. And so your learning curve, your education, your smartness has nothing to do with your look. As you know, I can tell you, neither brother Muhammad, we done all been around people, man, who wear suit and tie, man. It's not as intelligent, man, as they suit and tie, man, presenting to be. Right? So you know what I mean? So we know that, right? So but however, they can make us feel uncomfortable because of the environment that they're in. I'm a professor. So, there you go. What does a professor look like? Right? I come to class, the first day of class, I'm gonna tell a story look just like this. you know, and then one just created a stereotype of who is this guy that's in class? Like, what is going on? Like, is he a class clown? Like, all of those stereotypes that will come with what a class will look like. But, you know, the moment I spoke, the moment I stated who I am, then, you know, in our community, it don't matter, right? I go back to the Bronx or to Virginia. Nobody really care about, you know, having a doctorate degree in terms of your family. They just think that the more you have, right, the more money they can ask you for, right? That's what they can do, right? So,
right.
But
right.
But in terms of looking at the community as a whole, being able to check off a box that, okay, yeah, by the way, you know, he is educated, you know, so you can't assume that. And again, when every person that looks at me now going to look at somebody else different, remember, it's not about me. It's about changing, man, things that are larger than me. So there's going to be another young man that's walking out right now that may be dressed and has a hip hop, maybe a fitted hat or earring, or maybe you have tats. Who knows, man? But somebody's going to assume that there's something negative about this person without him opening his mouth. However, today and every day, and hopefully your show and any other show and all the shows I've done, because, you know, as a speaker and travel around, not to say that I don't understand the dress code, but to be able to speak directly to the souls of people and not have any filter of stereotypes. I mean, I'm not coming to you, you know, dressed in a certain type of way, talking to you, not talking with you, but more talking at you. And I'm in an area where in our community, people who we saw that were successful, they tend to change their viewpoint. You know, it was more of what they did was they end up looking back and not reaching back. And that's a part of the foundation's core right there.
Wait a minute, hold on. Hey, Doc, hold on, Doc. Wait a minute. You're dropping jewels right now, but that one's just hit me.
Yeah. And our community,
they're more concerned with, you said looking back, but not reaching back.
Not reaching back. I got mine. I came out of there. Why they can't do it? Why they still fighting? Why they still got going on? Why the kids do this? Why is a parent acting this way? Why that? Why right? Forgetting the dynamics of where they came from. Me, you know, that's the one thing I'm gonna die doing this. Listen, I'm gonna die doing this right here. Right, changing my community, being able to, man, show that if we all just do just a little bit, man, we can change a lot. And you don't have to actually, man, to be on great status to do nothing great. And you don't actually have to have a whole lot of money, man, to be wealthy. You know what I mean? The knowledge is what I'm talking about in terms of that, and building relationships and teaching that not only just to my children, but also to young people, and letting them know that you can change the world through where you are, starting at one step at a time. You know, your culture, your community. And you don't have to have a whole lot to be able to help a whole lot. You know what I mean? So oftentimes we come.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think that it's, yeah, bro. And look, brother, I think it's important for us as people, as Black men, as educated folks, for us to be very intentional about how we're going to, you know, move forward in our culture, right? And I've said this when the show started, and I'm always going, we are the culture.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, we set the tone for the culture, right? Sometimes people tend to believe that the culture is just something outside of us, or that we don't have any power to change or any influence to really dictate. But that's not true. I mean, yes, there's going to be mass media. We know that, where there's social media. But at the end of the day, if we decide that something is acceptable or unacceptable, if we decide that we're going to follow this tradition or not follow this tradition, that all comes down to personal choice. That all comes down to us making a decision to say, you know, I'm going to go this way or that way. And what you're speaking of is, there has to be a new decision that has to be made about how we see ourselves, a new decision about how we're going to serve each other, and a new decision about what is going to be the future of our people. You are a man that have children. I have a son. My son is 9 years old. My daughter is 3. I'm very, very grateful and blessed, and I thank God every day for blessing me to have 2 children, that can go in so many different directions. But I look at my son, Doc. I look at him differently at 9 years old, because I know his mind is working.
Right.
And so one of the things that I'm looking at him is that I'm trying, and I always tell people this, the two things that as a father that I'm trying to keep into my son is I'm trying to ensure his blackness and his boyness.
Right.
His blackness and his boyness.
Right.
Son, you were created a certain way.
Right.
And be proud of who you are, what you are, and then we're gonna start filling in the gaps. So that way, as a grown man, you contributing to society. You serving your community.
Right. And I think it's so important too, especially in our Black culture and specifically with our Black men. You know, I'm constantly telling Black men, listen, you either carrying around a backpack or a toolkit. Most of us don't even know we need a toolkit, let alone know what to put in there. 3 out of 5 Black boys are waking up to fatherless homes. So you don't have a father that could be able, or a mentor or a man structure to be able to tell you that you need a toolkit and you know how to be able to deal with the storms that's going to come in your life. So you carry a backpack. So that means you're packing it, because when you come out the womb, your mom tells you about what you should do to take care of home, how you should treat a female, how you should make sure, how you should act, man, when the police comes across. Everything that you receive in your entire life, you talk to your son about things you need to be careful about. That has nothing to do with him and his soul or who he is. It's about things he got to be able to watch out for. So he carry a backpack, and over years that backpack gets heavy. So it could be a small issue that'll happen. All of a sudden, man, you know, just like when you filling up a jar and it's constantly getting filled with things, you don't have no moment to release. And so not knowing that you need a toolkit, right? Not you need that toolkit. And then what should you have in your toolkit? You know, should you have patience in your toolkit? Well, what does it look like? Should you have a conversation when you were struggling with something? Should you be able to know how to be able to deal with losses? How can you deal with things that don't go your way? How you can deal with things when you're doing the right thing and still bad things happen? You know, all those are tools. All those are tools that you have in your toolkit. And so, you know, I'm constantly trying to remind our young people that, you know, you carry either a backpack or a toolkit, and especially men.
Come on.
Especially men, right? Even older men. You know, I'm in my 50s, man. I never had a man ever talk to me about sex, to ever tell me about how to be a husband, how to be a good man in general. Why? Because they was taking it on the chin themselves. A lot of them were struggling. And when you think about the culture of our own community, man, especially talking about Black community, male and female, most of the times the Black male just take it on the chin. If he hear that he ain't nothing, he think about he ain't being nothing. I always say that, you know, how can you expect a young man to ever get past negative if all he hear is negative? And so that's part of that toolkit. And that's that anger. That's that frustration. You know what I mean? And what do you do? Because storms are going to come, right? You need to know that you got to think about it. When we're out, just even our life skills, we know we need to have an umbrella. We know that the sun don't shine every day and it's going to rain, right? We know it's coming. We don't know what day it's coming, but we prepared for it. We got an umbrella somewhere. And our young men and grown men and older men don't have that. Don't even know that they need to have a toolkit first. And then they don't know what to put in that toolkit to be able to use, to be able to pull it out, to be able to have, you know, when you're having a confrontation, when you're at your job, man, and somebody's automatically, man, being able to assume something about you that's negative just based on your outer appearance. Do you have a toolkit? Do you know what tools to be able to use? Or you pack that in your backpack, and then you're gonna be angry about another job, right? You know, or when you have a loss and you made a mistake in a relationship with a young female or older female, do you know how to recover? Do you have a toolkit first? And do you have tools and know how to say, man, how I can work on being a better man? Or when you're a father, man, that's trying to take care of your responsibilities, and all of a sudden, man, you lose your job, but yet you behind, as they say, you know, and you have someone that's on your back and constantly, you know, pushing you, or not telling you about your greatness, but more telling you about how the problems that you are right now. Not telling you, educating yourself. Like, listen, I teach my son. You know, I have four daughters and one son. My son was 9 years old, so walking to school every single day. And I used to talk to him about the 3 H's of life. I was like, what's the 3 H's of life? I was almost threatening to him. I wanted him to be able to have something that if anything happened to me, that he would be able to have that. Because we all know, man, that words have power. You know, that whole cliche of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt us. That's not real life. Words got power. Words. There are some of us, man, who can't remember what we did last week, right? But we can remember what somebody said to us, man, 20 years ago. Like I can remember a principal telling me I won't go to. So we can still remember those words. And I would say, what's the 3 H's of life? And then, you know, I would just repeat it to him. Heart, hard work, humbleness. I said, son, you got to have heart to put hard work in. That's actually doing something that other people don't want to do or that you don't really want to do. I don't care what life you're in. You're in sports, man. You got to be able to get up, man, and do something. You got to go to work. You got to practice in. If you're in the classroom, you got to study with other people, man, and partying. You got to put work in. Like you can't be a complainer, right? And say you're a hard worker in the same sentence. They don't go together. They don't go together. You can't say you're a grinder, but you ain't putting no hard work in. They don't match. You know what I mean? You can't be a whiner.
Right.
A man that whines more than he grinds, right? That don't make no sense. Like, don't even match. But they say in life you shouldn't guarantee things, but I can guarantee you that when you put hard work in, man, there's something that's going to come up positive. Hey, it
come on, brother.
Starter on your team. It might be that you got that girl, man, that you've been chasing for a long time. It may be you got an A on your test. You may have got that job, man, that's making good money, bought that home and that car because of your hard work. But see, that's just as quick as you got it, you can lose it. That's where your humbleness got to come in. See, when you humble, man, you keep working. People who are not humble don't keep working. People who are content complain. People who are content complain. Right? People who are hardworking continually.
Come on. Man, oh man. Doc, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the energy. I appreciate the spirit in which you're sharing with us today. Man, oh man, I want to make sure we got our doc because hopefully we didn't lose him. Oh man, we lost our brother. All right, look, I want to get him back. When we let's take a quick pause. When we come right back, let's reconnect with Dr. Dunn of the Dunn Foundation. He's a professor, he's an author, he's a speaker, and we're going to get more details about the 11th annual back to school drive that they're hosting. So stay with us, folks. A little bit more left here of the culture on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks. We just overcome a little bit more of the tech issues, and we truly appreciate all of your patience with us as we kind of work through the glitches. And I want to make sure that we have our good brother, Dr. William Dunn, He's a professor. He is an author. He is a speaker. And I wanted to talk to him about the 11th annual back to school drive that the Dunn Foundation will be hosting at Iverson Mall, folks. It's a great opportunity to connect with people from your community, especially if you're in the DC area in Prince George's County. It's a great opportunity to connect with people while at the same time getting your children prepared for the new school season. And if you're like me, and I said it before, start getting your school supplies now. I wonder how many folks got their school supplies already, because I did. My son got to get a couple of more clothing pieces. But in terms of those supplies, y'all know, you go to Walmart, you go to Target, you go to the dollar store or wherever, and those school supplies are gone, baby. And we don't want to miss out on the opportunity of sending our children back to school prepared. So, if again, Dr. Dunn is having his school supply giveaway, the Dunn Foundation, in very, very exciting situation. Take a look there. That's going to be August the 20th at Iverson Mall, starting at 8 a.m. through 11 a.m. I would highly recommend that if you're in the neighborhood, that you check them out, see all that they have to offer. Go to their website. The Dunn Foundation is called The Dunn, with THEDUNN Foundation.com, thedunnfoundation.com. And you can find all of the latest work that they're doing for the community. And I'm sorry, the back to school and from the back to school giveaway starts at 9 o'clock. But y'all want to be there at 8, because they're talking about packing 1,000 bags full of back to school materials. Plus they're looking to give away some other goodies, food, and some more goodies for the family. This is the 11th annual back to school free book bag and supplies giveaway. They also, if you go into the website, you can find how you can win a $100 gas card, which is real good right now, and so much more. So we really appreciate Dr. William Dunn for being on the show. I truly appreciate his passion, and I got to bring my brother back. I know he got a little tech issues, but we got to bring my brother back. And once we have him back, we'll have more conversations about Black men, more conversations about education, and just more conversations about how we could take the community and the culture forward. All right, folks, I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in to today's show. If you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoy it, make sure you hit that like button on YouTube. Make sure you share the information. And most importantly, continue to support us here at the Black Star Network. Show them, King Keenan, how they can support. There we go. Support us right now at blackstarnetwork.com. You can definitely show your support through Cash App, through Venmo, through PayPal, through Zelle. We need your support. All right, let me see. We got some final words from Dr. Dunn. We got some final words. Doc, hey, Doc, we got you back in, brother.
Yeah, I'm back, man. I had a storm. Hey, we just talked about it. We just talked about storms. We just talked about the storms in life, right? So, in the middle of this conversation, all of a sudden, man, the internet went out, the storms happened, but it just, toolkit, right? I got a toolkit. So, part of it is if I can, I know we didn't get a chance to kind of go through a lot. I know you guys have timing on it. We started out talking about this back to school event.
Hey, Doc, let me just share with you. And as I share with our audience, we'll bring you back on because I think we need to have a larger conversation. I put out the information about what you guys are doing on August the 20th, of course, with the back to school giveaway and the drive that you have, 1,000 backpacks. But I think it's worthy of us bringing you back on to have another conversation about some of the other issues.
Right.
Because, we want to make sure that we further the culture. We want to push these conversations forward. And a lot of these conversations, it's not about white people. It's not about system. A lot of these conversations is making sure that we change how we interact and engage one another. We change our culture. It's an internal fireside chat for us. So we got to certainly bring you on. But I want to give you a few moments to share any final thoughts as people, take a look at your website, the DunnFoundation.com,
Okay.
and, consider coming out to support you at the back to school drive. What is the final thing you want us to keep in mind, brother?
One is that if we all just do a little bit, we can help a lot. Our foundation work, it's about just us putting our resources together to be able to help a lot. As you stated, this is our 11th year, but in our second year doing 1,000 book bags. Last year was our inaugural year, so we did 1,000. We were doing at least 600 book bags per year. This year, we're doing 1,000 book bags in the drive-through. Even through the pandemic, even through the challenges, we continue to reach out and have our hands out to be able to support families any kind of way that we can, to be able to just do a little bit. We know how it is, during this time where if you can check off one box where you don't have to have a book bag and supplies as a parent, as as well, having, multiple children, all a little bit helps. So, that's part of our core right there. And so we encourage everyone to visit our website, the DunnFoundation.com, to learn more about what we're doing. We don't just have that. We have an annual turkey giveaway. We have a veterans initiative, a homeless initiative, a free college tour. People always ask about, these free resources and the purpose behind it. We believe that if we can be able to give people things that they need, we can introduce them to other things, man, that might help them to become better for themselves. So it's not just
absolutely.
We put community resources inside of the backpack. If you are a family member who's incarcerated and you want to know what jobs are hiring, we put that information in the backpack. If you're a parent that's want to know about TANF and need assistance, we put that information in the backpack. We just use the backpack as a resource, basically as a toolkit, for families. And so, we be also providing each family, we get a free bag of food as well too. I want to say shout out, if I can, to Chick-fil-A of District Heights, Black-owned business, Travell Harvey, along, with Angela Suggs. Those are just two great people. That's one of our largest partners. And even though Chick-fil-A is it's a huge food establishment. And so, they believe in it, and being able to connect with a Black-owned business that supports us. They'll be providing over 700 free food coupons as well for families, and they provided thousands of food. So we definitely want to shout them out, as well as all of our partners and those who continue to support the Dunn Foundation. And so we always, we're around. Again, we provide support in the DMV area. We also, even as far as Baltimore as well, we provide support. So, we want to continue to be able to do that. And so I definitely look forward to coming back on. Like I said, I do want to share also too with everyone that in life, you are going to have some challenges. They're going to happen. One is give yourself credit. Don't chase too far about where you need to go without being appreciative of where you already came from. Focus on that as well too. As Jay-Z said it, man, you're already at the finish line with the flag waving, man. All you got to do is just keep running. But don't forget the fact of where you ran from. Don't lose sight with that. A lot of times, man, we're trying to chase places you want to go and forgetting about how far we already came. So give yourself a little bit more credit as our community and through our struggles. The 3 H's of life: heart, hard work, and humbleness. I believe in that. I live by that creed. And if I can leave those words for everyone, and I definitely look forward to coming back on the show. You can check out Dunn's Inspirational Words, Broken Wings 2, which is, I'm an author as well. So Inspirational Words, or follow us on Instagram at Dunn Foundation as well for inspirational words and inspirational support, as well as resources of support in the community. So I believe in our community. As you say, we are the culture. We are the culture. So if we can every day, if we can wake up to that, and if we can go to sleep to that, there's nothing you can't get past.
It is. Dr. William Dunn, professor, author, speaker. Thank you so much, dear brother. We truly love and appreciate you, man. Thank you for being so good for the culture, Doc.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Check out my big brother as they continue to have the very, very big conversations about what's going on. So stay tuned for that. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.